Good day, everyone. We are the Group 6. My name is Herry Oclarit, and together with me are my group mates, Mr. Kenneth Edward Mondigo and Mr. Odto Kyrk. So, our topic for today is about the Rules 18 and 19 of the Convention on the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea 1972, betterwise known as COLREGs 72. So, next slide, please. So, introduction. This will show you the learning objectives for today. First, we have explanation of COLREGs Rule 18 and 19. And second, we have the application of Rule 18 and 19 on board ships. Next slide, please. So, Rule 18. Responsibilities between vessels. So, next slide, please. So in Rule 18, the key word that we have to bear in mind is that the priority vessel and the giveaway vessel. So it states here, except where Rules 9, 10, and 13 otherwise require. So Rules 9, 10, and 13 have greater influence compared to Rules 18. So first, a power-driven vessel underway shall keep out of the way of, first, a vessel not under command, or AVUC. Second, a vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver, or a RAM. Third, a vessel engaged in fishing. And fourth, a sailing vessel. So next, let us recall Rules 9, 10, and 13 first. So Rule 9 is about narrow channels. Rule 10 is about traffic separation schemes, or TSS. And Rule 13 is about overtaking. So we have to bear this in mind that these rules have a significant value compared to Rule 18. So this takes over Rule 18 in terms of such situations. So next, please. Rule 18, responsibilities between vessels. Again, B, we have a sailing vessel underway shall keep out of the way of a vessel not under command, a vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver, and third, a vessel engaged in fishing. So as you can see, there is a hierarchy between vessels which has priority and vessels which are giveaway compared to such types of vessels. Next. So C, a vessel engaged in fishing when underway shall, so far as possible, keep out of the way of, first, a vessel not under command, and second, a vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver. Next, please. So D, any vessel other than a vessel not under command or a vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver, if the circumstances of the case admit, avoid impeding the safe passage of a vessel constrained by her draft, exhibiting the signals in Rule 28. Second, a vessel constrained by her draft shall navigate with particular caution, having full regard to her special condition. So I will show a diagram later in order for you to comprehend better what I am talking about. So next. We also have a seaplane on the water in general shall keep well clear of all vessels and avoid impeding their navigation. In circumstances, however, where risk of collision exists, she shall comply with the rules of this part. So next slide, please. So these are the hierarchy of vessels that I was talking about. So at the top, we have the most prioritized vessels. So first, we have the vessel not under command, and then the RAM, or the vessels restricted in their ability to maneuver. So in daytime, we can see the signals. We have the two black balls, and then in the nighttime, we have the two red lights for the NUC vessels. Secondly, we have the RAM, or the vessels restricted in their ability to maneuver, which has the signal of two black balls and a black diamond in the middle. And at night, it shows a red light signal. So we also have a vessel constrained by her draft on the second level of the hierarchy, which shows a black cylinder on daytime as its signal, and 3 red lights as its signal on nighttime. So next on the hierarchy, we have the fishing vessels, which has 2 black triangles, apex pointing towards each other. At night, it shows a red light and a white light when it is fishing, and a green and a white light when it is trolling. So next in the hierarchy, we have the sailing vessels. Then below that are the power-driven vessels. And finally, we have the seaplanes. So the seaplanes have the lowest priority in the hierarchy of these vessels. So when a sailing vessel uses its engine, its circumstances change from a sailing to a power-driven vessel. So next slide, please. So rule 9, this is a visual representation of narrow channels. So rule 18 must be put below rule 9, or when the situation includes passage of narrow channels. So next, please. So rule 10, traffic separation scheme. Again, rule 10 has prioritization compared to rule 18. And then finally, we have rule 13, or overtaking. So when overtaking another vessel, rule 13 must be put ahead of rule 18. So next slide.
So, rule 19, conduct of vessels and restricted visibility. So next slide, please. So this rule applies to vessels not in sight of one another when navigating in or near an area of restricted visibility. The opening sentence of Rule 19 means that when we are navigating in an area of restricted visibility, which would be caused by fog or mist or heavy rain or whatever other circumstance it might be, so, we cannot see other vessels with the naked eye, whereas under normal circumstances, if there wasn't an effect on visibility. So in that area, we would be able to see vessels with the naked eye. In particular, the wording says vessel not in sight of one another. This means that section 2 of the steering and sailing rules do not apply in restricted visibility. That's a really big change to how we conduct the bridge of our vessel or how we skipper our leisure vessel. So basically, section 2 rules do not apply means that the rule 12 conduct between sailing vessels doesn't apply in restricted visibility. That means there is no such thing as port tack giving way to starboard tack. No such thing as a windward vessel gives way to a leeward vessel. Also means Rule 13, overtaking does not apply in restricted visibility. Everybody is a giveaway boat. Rule 14, head-on situation again. A head-on situation between two power-driven vessels both avoiding action by turning to starboard does not apply in restricted visibility. Rule 15, a crossing situation between two power-driven vessels does not apply a restricted visibility. That means any power-driven vessel coming from our starboard side, we do not give way to it. So Rule 16, action by giveaway vessel, and Rule 16, action by giveaway vessel, and Rule 17, action by stand-on vessel. These don't apply in restricted visibility because everybody is giveaway. There is no such thing as stand-on giveaway situation. And finally, Rule 18, responsibility. Between vessels, this hierarchy does not apply and restrict to visibility either because everybody is a giveaway vessel, so it is not under command, but it doesn't have a priority over restricted inability to maneuver. So next. Every vessel shall proceed at a safe speed adapted to the prevailing circumstances and conditions of restricted visibility. A power-driven vessel shall have her engines ready for immediate maneuver. The first part of this paragraph means apply Rule 6. Rule 6 is safe speed, and safe speed rule has several things for us to take into account. Firstly, the state of the visibility, in this case, restricted the density of traffic. How many other vessels are in the area and the maneuverability of our own vessel. The background lights should be there anywhere navigating restricted visibility. If the dark weather influences the sea state, anything else that could cause us to slow down, and in this case, including the fog and the depth of the draft of our vessel. Also has to be taken into account all under Rule 6, which Part B of Rule 19 is specifically referring us to further the other vessels fitted with operation radar. We have to take into account the characteristics of the radar equipment and the use of the range that we are using a 6-mile scale or a 12-mile scale. The effect of interference on the radar of surrounding weather influences floating objects such as ice or small vessels which may not be detected by the radar. All of these needs to be included as part of this rule. The second part, a power-driven vessel shall have her engine ready for immediate maneuver means that we should all be using our engine in particular. Our different sailing vessels should not be sailing in areas of restricted visibility, should be monitoring or at least have our engine ready to maneuver. So next, every vessel shall have due regard to the prevailing circumstances and conditions of restricted visibility. When complying with the rules of Section 1 of this part, Section 1 rules of steering sailing rules apply in all conditions. Visibility, this means that Rule 5 lookout, keeping a constant lookout around the vessel applies. Rule 6, safe speed, as we've just discussed, is restrictive visibility. Rule 7, risk of collision. We have to use all available means appropriate to the prevailing circumstances to ascertain whether or not there is risk of collision. Rule 8, action to avoid a collision and restricted visibility. Still needs to be early, bold, clear maneuvering. Rule 9, narrow channels, and narrow channel is still a narrow channel. So we still navigate on the starboard side. We still do not anchor a narrow channel, should give way if there were fishing narrow channel sailing vessels. Vessels under 20 meters shouldn't be impeded in a narrow channel, and all of that still applies. And Rule 10, traffic separation schemes. A TSS is still a TSS, and we have to behave accordingly when we're navigating within that area. So next slide, please.
So the Rule 19, the conduct of vessels in restricted visibility, the paragraph B, a vessel which detects by radar alone the presence of another vessel shall determine if a close quarter situation is developing and or risk of collision exists. If so, she shall take avoiding action in ample time, provided that when such action consists of an alteration of course, so far as possible the following shall be avoided. The subparagraph 1, the an alteration of course to port for a vessel forward of the beam other than for a vessel being overtaken. And the subparagraph 2, an alteration of course towards a vessel's a beam or above that beam. So basically, not all objects or obstructions can be detected by the radar. With its nature of functionality, it may have errors to happen, especially when it comes to a restricted visibility where there is no clear sightings. With that prior rule in avoiding collision within an ample time, it doesn't mean that changing your course and speed is the best action to do, but still we must consider the following. First, typically it means that you need to come starboard for vessel forward of the beam unless you are overtaking them. Second is that so if above your beam in the port side, you got to alter your course to starboard side. And if your beam is in the starboard side, you need to alter your course to the port side. So basically the paragraph D cover the action we need to take depending where we detect the radar target. So now we have the Rule 19, the paragraph E. Except where it has been determined that a risk of collision does not exist, every vessel which hears apparently forward of her beam the fag signal of another vessel, or which cannot avoid a close quarter situation with another vessel forward of her beam, shall reduce her speed to the minimum at which she can be kept on her course. She shall, if necessary, take all her way off and in any event navigate with extreme caution until danger of collision is over. So we have the best time to take action if there isn't an ample time to avoid close quarter situation. It is best to first reduce the speed in order to have a time to assess the situation. Second is that we need to bear in mind that the radar will not detect all vessels or all obstructions. And lastly, it may be difficult to determine the direction of a fag signal if one is not heard successfully. So in order for us to comply with Rule 19, the conduct of vessels in restricted visibility, we must stay alert and have an effective monitoring in watching the fag signals. And we always prepare the engine for an immediate maneuver or immediate response. It is always a prevalent misperception about the COLREGs being as merely a set of guidelines that does not need to be taken seriously. something to aid crews in determining who has the right of the way in the event of collisions. That's very wrong. We have a regulations and we must follow it obediently. The international regulations for preventing collisions at sea, or the simply as the COLREGs, are simply the rules of the road for ships and other boats at sea. They define how vessels should behave in all conditions of visibility, including when they are in sight of each other and when vision is respected. The guidelines were put in place to make it apparent when you are distant on vessel, when you are the giveaway vessel, and what you should do to avoid collision when you are in close quarter situations. With the rules of the road, specifically the Rule 18, the responsibilities between vessels, and Rule 19, the conduct of vessels in restricted visibility, we can easily identify the best thing to do when we encounter such situations. We, as a seafarer, must be composed with confidence in what we have learned in the rules of the road, or the COLREG, and at the same time be ready for unexpected situations. And I think that will be all for Group 6, and thank you for listening. Have a good day.